The Cuban Missile Crisis. This event was probably the nearest the two superpowers came to war. Leaders. Cuba. Fidel Castro was the leader of Cuba. He became communist in 1961 and was popular amongst the Cuban people. He wanted to nationalize industries, which upset many Americans. Trade started to decline with the US, and Cuba and USSR became allies in 1961 as Cuba and the USSR agreed to trade oil and sugar for machinery. The Bay of Pigs disaster, 1961. The CIA told JFK they were planning to invade Cuba with Cuban exiles. JFK approved the invasion, but it went terribly wrong. 1,500 invaders landed at the Bay of Pigs, but the main problem was the bad military intelligence available to the invaders. This had led them to overestimate the amount of support that they would receive from the Cubans when they invaded. Results of the Bay of Pigs. It made JFK look young and inexperienced, and Khrushchev noted this, which affected his opinion on how to treat the USA. It made Castro look heroic and gave him genuine national support in Cuba and international prestige, especially with the Soviets. JFK blamed himself and was highly angry. He blamed the military and was very suspicious of their motives. USSR assistance. Castro was deeply concerned with the USA's plans to overthrow him, which let him turn to the USSR more and more. Missiles arrive. In August 1962, the USSR sent equipment required to create a nuclear missile base in Cuba. Nuclear missiles in Cuba meant that the USSR would have a range of every major city in the US except for New Orleans. The US intelligence service found proof of the missile bases by October 14, 1962. Soviet ships were en route to Cuba with further supplies. JFK was determined to stand firm against the threat of the USSR. Missile Crisis, 13 days. ExComm, Committee of National Security Council, advised JFK throughout the crisis. ExComm had a range of options: invade Cuba, naval blockade on Cuba, air attack on missile bases, or allow Cuba to continue with their nuclear missiles. 22nd of October 1962, JFK decided on a naval blockade of Cuba. 23rd of October 1962, USSR condemns the USA and says it's only trying to help improve Cuba's defences. 24th of October 1962, beginning of the US naval blockade and plans for an invasion of Cuba were drawn up. USA air forces begin to fly over Cuba. On reaching the naval blockade, the Soviet ships were either turned away or stopped. Evidence from the U-2 spy planes suggested that the missile sites in Cuba were near completion. 26th of October 1962. On the same day, tensions were increased with the shooting down of a U-2 spy plane over Cuba. JFK received a telegram from Khrushchev. The telegram stated that the USSR would remove the missiles if USA agreed to end the blockade and not invade Cuba. 27th of October 1962. A second telegram arrived for Khrushchev. This stated that the USSR would only remove its missiles from Cuba if the USA removed its missiles from Turkey. A U-2 spy plane violated Soviet airspace. A background of advisors recommended an airstrike. JFK went with his brother's advice and ignored Khrushchev's second telegram, but went ahead with Khrushchev's first telegram. JFK agreed to remove the blockade and to invade Cuba in return for the Soviets to remove the missiles from Cuba. If Khrushchev didn't reply by October 29th, the USA would invade Cuba. Results of the Cuban Missile Crisis. After 13 days, nuclear war had been avoided. To the public it was a win for JFK, but looking closely at it, it was not. JFK had agreed secretly to remove the missiles from Turkey, 27th of October. The removal of the missiles was not a great sacrifice. The USA began to dismantle some missiles across Europe, and within 6 months the missiles were gone. Castro remained leader of Cuba. Both sides agreed that a confrontation in the future should be avoided. A telephone hotline between Washington and Moscow was set up. Agreed talk to reduce the number of nuclear weapons each had. The Partial Test Ban Treaty was signed in 1963. Both leaders reached an understanding that might have signified a better future. However, within 2 years, Khrushchev was overthrown and JFK was assassinated.